Hey guys, Drew from ProSkill Services. I just want to recap your XL1050 that can be installed on your zoning system along with any of the other XV systems if you choose to upgrade for the XV18. If you don't have a zoning system, please disregard this name up here. That's going to indicate your zoning zone that you're controlling, and we'll go over that at a later time. So, going to go over the basic function of this thermostat. Up in the top left corner is your day and date. We have your time and connectivity to the network. We do not have this particular thermostat connected to the network as it is in our office. This temperature right here is going to indicate the ambient temperature of the thermostat itself. And down here is what I like to call the status bar. That's going to tell you what the system is actively doing. Currently it shows that the system is idle, which means it hasn't fallen outside of our temperature parameter. Right here we have outdoor temperature. Because I do not have it connected to the internet, this is being sensed by an outdoor temperature sensing bulb. So this is what the temperature is at our outdoor unit. We have indoor humidity, which is also being sensed by the thermostat here. And then because we have a variable speed system, you'll notice we now have compressor speed. So that is going to indicate the 30 to 100% capacity that your system is running. If you have a heat pump, this will work for both heating and cooling, but in this particular scenario with a furnace, you're only going to see it when it's operating and cooling. Before we jump to the temperature settings, I'm going to go down here and just skip to system mode. Right here, it's going to tell you what mode we're having it set in. Again, if you have zoning, this is going to allow you to set the different zone modes. So let's just pretend that there is no zoning. We have auto, heating, cooling, and off. What auto is going to do is that's going to allow you to set a heating temperature and a cooling temperature. If it ever drops below your heating temperature, it's automatically going to come on and heat. If it ever rises above your cooling temperature, it's automatically going to come on and cooling. And right here is where we're going to set those temperatures. So this indicates that we have it in auto. As you can see, because the temperature is close to what our cooling set temperature is, it is automatically defaulting into cooling in the auto mode. As you can see, the blue is bolded. That means that that's the temperature we're able to adjust. I don't know if you just noticed, but because we came within a 3-degree temperature difference, it adjusted the heating temperature as well. So let's do that again. See how it's going down? It will always remain within a 3-degree temperature difference. I'm going to go ahead and set this back up to 75. What that means is that I want it in cooling at 75, okay? And then right here, we've got the heating temperature. I can raise it up, and then after that sets, you'll notice it'll bounce back to the 75. That is how you're going to adjust the indoor temperature. I'm going to go back to system mode, and I'm just going to put it into cooling, okay? It will time out, and now that should just turn to blue. So if the whole thing is blue, we're in cooling mode. If the whole thing is red, we're in heating mode, and it's also labeled right down here. Again, just set the temperature, and then that's what it's at, and it will run until it gets this temperature changes. As you can see, this temperature is very sensitive, so as I'm waving my hand, the temperature is changing. I'm going to go ahead and go through the menu now. We have settings, schedules, weather, system info, and zones. Again, you're only going to see zones when you have zoning installed. Through the settings, we're going to be able to adjust the screen. We have the thermostat setting right here. It's going to allow you to change from Celsius and Fahrenheit. Screen, user wizard setup, date, time, network, software upgrades, reminders, Z-Wave settings, and reboot. Really all these, the installers are going to set up for you, so you don't have to worry about those. But what homeowners like to do is they like to, mess with the screen and adjust things like that. So we're going to go ahead and go into display. You can adjust the brightness for active and standby, the backlight, how long it takes for that how long the backlight will stay lit. Screensaver, you can have it display the indoor temperature, which just is going to have the ambient temperature bounce around on the screen. Black, it's going to cut all light from the screen when it goes into that screensaver mode. This is really good for when you have a thermostat in your bedroom. It will not emit any light. And then no screensaver is just going to leave it on the home screen. You also have the ability to adjust or pick between 8 different colors. We're going to go ahead and leave it on the default. And then you just hit apply when you're done. Screen layout is going to allow you to adjust those 3 data points that we saw there. You can only display 3 data points if you have a 1050, and 850 is only going to allow you to have 2. but we typically like to set outdoor temperature, indoor humidity, and compressor speed. Those are the ones that were displayed earlier. You can also have the dealer contact, which is just going to show our contact info, runtime history, air cleaner, and system status. And whatever you do select, just hit apply. Clean screen is going to lock the screen so you can wipe it down, and then access restriction is going to allow you to lock the screen for that. As you can see, since I turned the air conditioning down, it brought the system on in cooling. It's actively showing that it's cooling, and now we're operating the compressor at 64%. So it's using 64% of its max capacity. Also within the main menu is setting your schedules and presets. If you want to set up a schedule, you can do so there. It has an interactive schedule to where it will walk you through that process. Weather is going to pull up the weather screen, and it's going to display a 5-day forecast, radar, weather alerts, and then the current weather. And then your system info is just going to give you models and serial numbers, and zones will identify your zoning. Really, everything after system info is all going to be for service tech, so you don't really have to worry about that. We have system mode. Again, we went over it, auto, heating, cooling, and off. If you do have a zoning system, you can go through and just select that zone and then adjust it, the cooling mode or the system mode through there. What we always recommend, leave it to apply all zones. Even though you're able to individually control each zone, they can only be in the same mode. So you can't heat in one room and cool in the other. So in order to not get confused with that, you just want to make sure it's applied to all zones and then hit done. Right now we're displaying the temperature in the meeting room, Jenna's room, and then my office. All right, right here we have the fan mode. It has auto, on, and circulate. What auto is the thermostat tells the fan when to come on and at what speed. Being that you have a variable speed system, it will tell it to come on anywhere from 0 to 100% speed. On, it's on indefinitely, and if we select on, you'll notice you have fan options. I go through this too quick. Fan options, and then it will allow you at what capacity you want the fan to run. And then we have circulate. The circulate function allows you to set a minimum fan run time. So if the system comes on for 15 minutes in cooling, but you set a 30-minute minimum, it will run the fan for an additional 15 minutes within that hour period. You also have the ability to adjust that fan speed. It times out fairly quickly, or you can select done if you select it pretty quick. And then down here, if you do not have a schedule set, just go to the presets. Within the presets, you can have a home temperature, an away temperature, and a sleep temperature. Most people have different comfort settings within those three time zones, or what I like to call time zones. So if you're at home, you like to have a temperature. If you're away on vacation, typically people like to raise or lower the temperature, and then sleep temperature can be adjusted there as well. You would just hit edit, and then you would be able to then select whatever period or preset you want to adjust, and then always just make sure that whatever you're adjusting is bolded and actively changing, and then just hit apply. And that is pretty much it for the basic 1050 functions. We'll just do a quick recap on zoning. Zoning, whatever is displayed right here is going to display that temperature in that particular room. So Jenna's office is at 73, our meeting room is at 69, and my office is at 74. You'll also see that the status is changing. So in our room, we're actively cooling. In Jenna's room, she's relieving air, which just means that as her damper is closing or opening, it's just relieving any excess air. And then in the meeting room is doing the same. And that is basically it for the 1050. Alrighty guys, I'm gonna go over the second portion of the zoning thermostats. Right here we have the XL1040, which is gonna be your secondary stat. So the 1050 in the other room, that's always gonna be connected to zone 1. That is your primary control. That is where you're gonna have all the major functions and features on your system. Right now I'm gonna go through the basics of this 1040. It does have a lot of limited features compared to the other one. The best way to look at this is purely just a temperature sensor that gives you the ability to adjust the temperature in these particular zones. So right now we've got the date and time up at the top. It's not going to tell you whether it's connected to the internet like the other one. It's going to give you the ability to adjust every room that is connected to the zoning system. Currently we have it in Jenna's room because we're in Jenna's room. It's showing us that it's 69 degrees inside, and then it also has that status bar like I mentioned before. Currently her zone is in the heating mode, which means it's actively heating. Over here, we've got 2 data points as opposed to the 3 like we had in the other room. Right now we're displaying outdoor temperature. This is just based upon the temperature at the condensing unit. It is not connected to the internet, so we're not gonna have all those additional features like before. It's displaying that we have 30 degrees or 30% humidity inside this room, and then we have the temperature settings on the right. The only difference between the 1050 and the 1040, the 1040 will always default to cooling adjustment. So even though we're in the heating mode, you'll see that the cooling mode is bolded. We're gonna wanna go ahead and select that button right there, and then it's gonna bold in the red, which means we're adjusting the heating set point. It will default back to cooling once we've finalized that temperature, and then the same thing goes, you'll notice that I'm now adjusting the cooling temperature. We can then go into the menu. You're just gonna get some very basic features. We can rename the sensors. So if you feel that you want to change the name or a child moves into a different room, you can then change the zone name at that time. Calibration is just gonna be if you ever feel that there's an offset, like hey, you have an exterior temperature sensor, or we come and we need to adjust the temperature to match what you feel it is, or if you feel it's off. It's very uncommon that that happens. These are very expensive pieces of equipment, so they're usually pretty right on. The display, it's all the basic stuff before: the brightness, backlight, screensaver, and color themes. Whatever, if you do ever make any adjustments, make sure you always hit apply. Clean screen's gonna lock the screen so you can wipe it down, and then reboot. Whatever you do, do not hit reboot unless you were instructed by us. That will kind of reset everything, and it may throw off some settings. So we're gonna go ahead and hit back. As you can see, the system mode, it does not allow you to change the system mode on the secondary stat. That can only be done at the 1050, and as stated before, make sure it's set to apply to all zones. We have fan modes. It's only going to give you auto and on. It's not going to give you the ability to hit circulate. The reason being is when you hit circulate, it's going to make sure all the dampers are open, and it's going to circulate the whole house. We always recommend just leave it on auto. Let that smart system do what it needs to do to accommodate your temperature that you desire. And then we have the permanent holds. Permanent hold, even though it differs from the 1050 across the way, all that means is that if you had a schedule set, you would hit permanent hold, and it's gonna hold that temperature that you changed it to indefinitely until you tell it otherwise. Now, what I mean by indefinitely is if you did not change or set it to permanent hold and you had a schedule set, it would hold the temperature you changed it to until that next period. But that's pretty much the basic rundown of the 1040. Again, just a quick recap of the important items. Always make sure that whatever temperature you're changing, you are displaying that zone or room that you want to adjust. It's not too often, but it does happen. A customer will state, hey, I went into my daughter's room, adjust the temperature, and then my bedroom turned on. Well, we need to make sure that you're selecting and adjusting the correct room. Okay? If you guys have any further questions, please don't hesitate to call us at 623-551-7473, and we'd be happy to assist you. Thank you.